Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today I have the Christmas Carol book tag. Now this tag is not about Christmas carols, it is about the book, The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And all of the prompts come from characters or things associated with the book. But before we go through my answers and my selections for the prompts, I will remember to tell you what I'm drinking in my coffee cup. So today I have coffee, and I will be very specific so that everybody who is wondering can have all of the answers to their questions about my coffee today. I roasted some, I did not roast them. They were roasted by someone else downtown in a little roaster that is literally in like this little hut, like your sort of building near a shopping center downtown. And they roast the beans there on site and sell them very inexpensively, I might add, for the quality that you get. And so they are freshly roasted, and those are the beans. It's the house blend. And I ground them in my burr grinder at 30. And then I made it using my French press. I also sprinkled in with the grounds some spice blend from a company called, I think, Nice and Spice. I got it at the Coffee and Chocolate Festival I recently was at. It's a cardamom rose blend, so it has like actual pieces of cardamom and rose petals in it and some other seasonings, and you put it in with the grinds when you are brewing your coffee. So I put that in there, made it in my French press, added a little half and half, and some of my molasses syrup that I made, the molasses caramel sauce that I made for my camel lattes for my coworkers last week that I told you about in my weekly reading wrap up earlier this week, because I have a bunch left over and it has dairy products in it, so it doesn't keep forever, so I want to use it up. Anyway, I put a little bit of that in there and it just tastes like warm and cozy and a little bit sweet and a little bit spicy. In short, it's perfect for Christmas time. So that is my very detailed explanation of what is in my cup today. There we go. Now onto the tag. So first of all, I was tagged by Kelly at Kelly Reads a Lot. Although I personally first saw this tag on Tiffany's channel at Beautiful Minutia, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed hearing her answers to the prompts. So I will link to both of them in the description box. The original was by Lauren Wade. So let's get on with the prompts. The first one is The Ghost of Christmas Past, a book that was a childhood favorite. And like Kelly said, I could say Anne of Green Gables, or I could say The Secret Garden, I could say Beverly Cleary. But what I'm going to go with today is one that, because I got on a Anne of Green Gables kick, because I loved Anne of Green Gables so much when I was a preteen, I read every Lucy Maud Montgomery book that I could get my hands on. And one series that I read multiple times was the Story Girl series. And I believe there are 3 books in this series. By the way, if you hear hollering, it's my son. He's downstairs playing video games with his friends online. And apparently there's a lot of drama. I'm hearing all kinds of bruh. I don't know. Anyways, so The Story Girl by Lucy Maud Montgomery. And it's about this girl who actually is a little bit reminiscent of Anne of Green Gables, but a little more crafty, I guess, for lack of a better word, a little more worldly wise. Yeah, that's the best way that I can describe her. And she is taken in by this family, but it's not just an older couple like Anne of Green Gables. There are actually some other children her age and younger. And so they get up to a lot of antics, but the girl, Sarah, I believe is her name, Sarah Stanley, she becomes known as the Story Girl because she always has a story to tell, and she just has a way with telling stories. And so the whole series is really very good. I don't know how many other books. What are the other? There's The Golden Road, I think, is another one. Does this tell me? I'm sorry, I'm still getting over this dumb cough, whatever it was that I've had. Apparently, people who have had it say that it lasts for like weeks. So yeah, we're on like week 3 here. But anyways, this doesn't say what other books are in this series, but I know there's The Golden Road, and I think there's one other one. Anyway, question number 2, The Ghost of Christmas Present, a recent book that will become one of your all-time favorites. And I'm going to go with Born of Gilded Mountains by Amanda Dykes for that one, which I have gushed about sufficiently on this channel. So if you've been around here for any length of time, you know that I love this book. So Born of Gilded Mountains definitely is going to be one of my all-time favorites for the year, certainly in contention. And yeah, enough said. Number 3, The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, a book coming out next year that you're most excited about. And I had a little bit of a difficult time with this because there were so many books that came out in 2024 that I was really excited about, and I was looking forward to the release, and I actually pre-ordered a few for the first time in my life. But 2025 is not looking like that from where I'm standing. I think part of it is a lot of the books that came out in 2024 were sequels or series, not a lot, but several of them were sequels or series by authors whose series I was already invested in and wanting to continue and or finish. And there aren't as many of those this coming year, like the series have been wrapped up or something like that. One exception would be Gabrielle Meyer. She is continuing her series of the Timeless series. So I am looking forward to her next one, which I cannot remember for the life of me what it's called, When the Hour Comes or something like that. I don't even know. That one I am very interested in reading also. So that would be up on my list. And then other than that, like there are several books I'm like, I'm really interested in that, but I have all of these other books I need to read by the author before I read that one. Or, you know, I don't have to, but I'd like to get a little bit caught up on their backlist before I read that. I don't know. I just had a hard time, like, there aren't as many books this coming year that I'm like, oh yes, I must read that as soon as it comes out. One exception, besides the Gabrielle Meyer book, would be The Atlas of Untold Stories by Sarah Brunsfeld. And this book just sounds like, I hope I don't build it up too much in my mind and then it will be a disappointment, but it sounds like the perfect blend of all of the things that I love into one story. And it seems like it will be an amazing read. So Sarah Brunsfeld, this will be her 3rd book. She wrote The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipp and The Divine Proverb of Struzal. And they're both kind of character-driven stories that really explore deep truths about life and redemption and reconciliation and that kind of thing. And really, really fantastic reads that you just kind of like sit in and soak in, and like you kind of want to absorb the truth that is in them. And so I love that aspect of her storytelling. She also has these characters that, you know, are just really so deep and rich. So there's that. And then this one, The Atlas of Untold Stories, it combines road trips and traveling throughout the United States with literary sites. I mean, what could be more perfect? It sounds like a dream road trip for me personally, and I feel like when I read it, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna take notes here and plan myself a trip. So I am really looking forward to reading that book. And it also has sisters in it and family relationships. It just seems really promising, so I am excited about that one. So number 4, Bah Humbug, a book that everyone else loves, you just can't stand. And I know that there are many such books. I know that. Maybe not many, but there are quite a few times when I have read a book because it was hyped in certain circles, and then I was very disappointed when I read it. And I was like, what do people see in this book? Why do they even like it? I don't understand. And so I know that has happened on more than one occasion, but I very rarely read hyped books that a lot of people love. So that is part of the thing. Like the books that I choose to read may be hyped in certain circles, but they're usually smaller circles. So it's not like universally well loved that I'm like, this is dumb. It's just loved by certain people, but not by me. And then, and then I just often don't read the really hyped books that everybody seems to love. And when it comes to classics, usually, even with one that is well loved, if there are ones that are kind of polarizing, then if I'm on the side of people that don't love it, I am not alone. There are many, many, many people together with me. So I had a hard time. I was really overthinking this question, honestly, even though it's one I know I've encountered before So I don't know why I struggled with it this morning. So my answer is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't hate it. I think I gave it 3 stars the last time I read it. And the first time I read it, I remember really enjoying it. I really liked it. But on this reread, I was just, it was exquisitely well written. So again, like, it's not like I hate the book. I can look at it objectively and admire things about it. I can admire the craft that went into it because it is exquisitely written, like I said. And it's a story that draws you in. It's unputdownable. You want to keep reading it. It's just masterfully told. So it's not like I look at it and say, oh, it's just a horrible book. Why would anybody even like it? I can see why people love it. I can see why past me loved it. But this past time that I was reading it, I kind of like felt pulled up short, because I realized at some point towards the end of the story, I was like, wait a second. Now, spoilers. So skip ahead if you haven't read Rebecca. Skip to the next chapter. Okay. So, spoiler alert. I felt pulled up short towards the end of the story. And all of a sudden, I was like, hold up a second. Why are you hoping for a man who killed his wife, who, by the way, he thought was pregnant, shot her point blank in cold blood, and had 0 regrets about it? You are rooting for him to get away with this and to escape with a young girl who is like half his age, who is naive at best, and who kind of loves him like a dog or a puppy, and he basically treats her like that. And you want them to escape and get away and live happily ever after somewhere. That is just some kind of twisted mess right there. And it just kind of left me feeling at the end of the book like kind of mixed feeling of, wow, that author really knew what she was doing. And ugh, how did I get stuck in that net? So anyway, I feel like I escaped my life with that one. And now I can't look at it the same again. And whenever people talk about how much they love Rebecca, I'm like, I get it. I do. I really get it. I understand that there are things to love about it, but it's kind of like similar to Wuthering Heights for me, where it's not really, there's not a beautiful love story being told here. I'm not exactly sure what what Daphne du Maurier's point was in her story. And in that, I feel like it differs maybe from Wuthering Heights, because I think Emily did have a point in her story. I'm not exactly sure what du Maurier's point was, other than just to craft a story like that and to draw people into it, and to, I don't know, just to dig into the whys and wherefores of a situation like that, and examine it from the inside out. I don't know. But yeah, it's a well-written story for sure, no doubt about it, but it's also awful at the same time. It is an awful story. Anyway, so moving on. Number 5, Bob Cratchit, an old dependable that you always recommend. And this is one, and I'm not alone in recommending this, for people who enjoy more, I don't know, more literary, who have more literary taste, who like stories with more depth, with layers. They read a lot of classic literature, they read a lot of literary fiction, that kind of thing. But sometimes they want something lighter to read, but they don't want, mass market, paperback type of stuff. They don't want formulaic stories. They don't want popcorn or candy to read. They just want something a little bit light and fluffy as kind of a palate cleanser in between their heavier reads. And so I always suggest Georgette Hare in those situations, because I myself personally don't mind a little bit of popcorn and candy at times, but Georgette Hare has enough substance and wit to her storytelling that it's not a completely brainless read, but they are light, fun stories that don't tax you mentally at all. And they're just a fun ride. and very enjoyable. So this is one of my favorites, Arabella by Georgette Hare. I also really love Frederica by her. And they will make you, some of her stories will make you laugh out loud. They're so funny. And then Tiny Tim, an underhyped book that you think deserves more love. Well, I have to say that the vast majority of books that I read, besides established classics, are books that are not hyped very much because I don't read hyped books very much. I already said that. So I really don't read a lot of what's current and out there. So I'm kind of amazed, by the way, that so many people have chosen to follow me because of that, because I find that the larger channels are usually the ones that read a lot of current and up-to-date books, and I just don't. So I am thankful that there are so many of you who are along this journey with me and reading these books that not as many people talk about. So that's kind of fun. I'm so glad that I am now at, well, as of this morning, 999 subscribers, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, thank you all for being here. But yeah, I don't read a lot of hyped books. So a lot of what I read, I could say, I wish more people knew about this book because I think it's really good and really enjoyable, and more people would love it if it was more hyped. But one, I'll mention an author, kind of like I mentioned Georgette Hare as an author suggestion. Patricia Varian is another one that I think she came from the same era as, well, she kind of like was the one succeeding Georgette Hare. So after Georgette Hare was Patricia Varian, but not as well known and not as well established, and did not write quite as many books. I'm trying to think. She was writing in like the 80s and 90s. So I don't know. I think her last book may have been written in like 2000, very early 2000s. So, but even then, she had her following and she had her fans. There was a whole website dedicated to all of her books at one point. I think it's still out there on the World Wide Web, but she never was as big as some of those other authors who were writing at the same time in a similar vein. And I can't think of who they are, but anyways, Patricia Varian. My sister found her first. She worked at a library and would read her books. And so then we all started reading them after her. And I really enjoyed them. They're very, it's funny because they're not like what I normally read, honestly. But they're these like adventure stories set during the Jacobite Rebellion, a lot of them. And in the Georgian era, most of them. A couple of them, she gets into the Regency era, but it's mostly Georgian era, and then like the Jacobite Rebellion is mostly the time period that she's dealing with. And so there are these adventure stories. She creates these whole myths surrounding, not myths, but fictional stories set during that time. She makes it so real that you think like it really was part of the history of the time. Like the League of Jeweled Men is one of the series, and it sets up this whole complicated conspiracy where the League of Jeweled Men is like it's like a conspiracy. Like they're trying to take down England from within, and they're like higher ups in the government or whatever, but it's like a secret cloaked society or whatever. And so they're the bad guys, and the good guys are trying to figure out who they are and to stop them before they completely succeed in bringing down England's government and culture and society and everything, because they're like attacking from all angles. It's really, really interesting. Very adventurous stories involving this. A lot of times you feel like the characters are going to be like, there's no way that they can escape, that the good guys can escape and succeed in this. But then, you know, somehow by the end, everything miraculously resolves. I mean, not miraculously, like it's not like magical realism or anything, but it's, you know, everything gets resolved in the end and everybody's happy and everything succeeds. And there's usually a romance thread. So anyway, it just, the romance aspect is very well done, but it's just as much about the adventure and the stories that are set up and the high stakes that are there. And it's just very engagingly told. And again, some of them are quite humorous. Some of them like make me, they're not all funny, but the ones that are like make me laugh out loud and so much my sides hurt. So Patricia Varian is an author that I think is underhyped, that she wasn't super well known in the time that she was writing. And people even now, when I mention her name, have never heard of her, but her books are still out there and still available. You can find them, and definitely worth giving a shot if that sounds interesting to you. And then number 7, today, why it's Christmas Day, a book that always gets you in the mood for Christmas apart from A Christmas Carol. And I had a hard time with this one again because I was overthinking, but I don't reread Christmas stories very much. A Christmas Carol I have read a few times, but other than that, I've not reread a lot of Christmas stories because there's so many out there. Like, I just want to read different ones every year. And so just reading Christmas stories in general really gets me in the Christmas mood. It's part of the whole season for me. So I enjoy reading Christmas stories by classic authors and by current authors. So I always read a good mix of them in December. So there's not one in particular that stands out. However, as I was thinking through it, I was like, one that I come across a lot, whether I intentionally choose to read it or you just, like, I know I've heard it in various audio productions, and I've just come across the story in various formats throughout the Christmas seasons, even if I haven't specifically read the book, and that is The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. And it's just a quintessentially perfect Christmas story, similar to A Christmas Carol. It's shorter though, it's a short story, and it really packs a punch, and it just beautifully illustrates the love and joy at Christmas time and the self-sacrifice. And I just love that one. It's very quintessentially Christmas. Number 8, The Muppet Christmas Carol, your favorite film adaptation of a book. And there is literally zero contest for this. This I did not have to overthink or consider for very long at all because there's only one answer to that question. And that is the 1995 Pride and Prejudice by BBC. End of story. End of discussion. We are done. So number 9 is to tag people. So I haven't taken the time yet. I will when I go to edit this video. So I don't know who I will tag. I'm going to try and find some people who haven't done this yet. But if you want to do this tag, I know we're getting at the end of the Christmas season here. It is probably Christmas Eve morning as this is going live. So, Christmas is wrapping up. But if you want to save this for next year, go ahead and bookmark it and keep it for next year and film the tag next year. And I will see you next time. And also, by the way, Merry Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful holiday with your family, and I will see you next time.